Hello and welcome back to the humble little Procraft workshop here in the depths of Shropshire. Today's video is going to be about pepper grinders. Now I'm not going to be turning one and making one. This is designed to help two types of people. One is the type of person that's possibly trying to mend or repair an old mill that they've got. We get quite a few people that get in touch that say they've got an old mill, it's got sentimental value but it stopped working. Can we do anything to change the fittings or replace the fittings inside? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. There's a whole variety of different bits and pieces that go in the bottom of these, and over the years we can't possibly know them all or know where they've come from. And the other group of people we're trying to help is ones that get in touch and say, oh, do you do a 5.5 inch kit, or do you do a 6.5 inch kit, or a 3 inch kit? And obviously we can't do all of them, but there is something you can do with some kits. It's pretty simple, to be honest, to adjust it to make the kit the size that you want. It does depend on the fittings that you've got. Now I'm going to be talking today about two different types of drive shaft, and I'll show you what those are. I'll show you on the steel table behind me, I think, because you might not be able to see it from me holding it up to the camera where I'm standing at the moment. So we'll go over to the steel table where I can show you the difference. At least two different types of shaft. I have to say there are probably more than two different types, but these are the two that we see most commonly. So we'll go over there, have a look at the bits and pieces, and then I'll show you what you're going to do to adjust and adapt your kit to get exactly the size you want. You need a little bit of nerve. Right, having come over to the table, I have to now remember to lie everything down. And whilst coming over here, I've actually found another shaft here. You will see, or you may see, this is a 5-sided shaft. This is for a completely different type of mill. It's one of our pro grind mechanisms. It's completely different. These, because these slot on the top, these you just cut these off and they're absolutely dead easy to adjust. So I'm not going to concentrate too much on that today, but I spoke to you about shafts a minute ago. So here is a very common shaft for a pepper mill. You will see it is square. It's around about 4.5 to 5 millimeters square profile, and it's got a flat bit at the end. And when they make these in the factory, they have a machine that wallops the end of this to make them flat on the end, and what that does is simply stops the burr dropping off the bottom. There are, however, another type, and that's this type, and this has a stainless steel shaft, and this goes in a special machine and it's flattened at the end. And you will also see, if I hold it up a bit closer here, that the profile at the end is also, where the thread is also flattened. These can't be adjusted. The burrs also don't come off. They're specially made to fit in there like that. Why do they do it that way? Absolutely no idea, but some manufacturers do them that way. You can't I've never managed to adjust one of these. I wouldn't recommend anyone tries. It's a case of finding a replacement if these bits go, unfortunately. Right, so what we're really going to look at today is the more common square profile aluminium shaft with a flattened end. Now I've got this mill that's already finished, and as you can see, the shaft for that I've got here is way too long for this mill. So just to show how easy it is to do this, I'm going to adjust this shaft and put it in this pepper mill. First thing I've got to do is take the mill apart. This one's empty. I need, for the screws, a PH1 screwdriver. This is quite an old mill, so how easy it's going to come apart, I'm not entirely sure. We shall see. And it's also had salt in it, and unfortunately salt, as anyone knows, rots absolutely everything. It doesn't matter what you put in it. Plastic, it doesn't rot, but any metal, basically, even stainless steel, eventually salt and any moisture will rot it. Right, there we go. You can see the salt on the bottom of there. and it's obviously had some moisture on it. Let's hope I can shift, there we go, shift these bits and pieces off, and we'll take that off, and you'll see that I can quite easily slot the new shaft in there. Hopefully all this mess goes to show you that I haven't taken this apart before to prep it. I'm just doing it as it is, as I do all our videos. So as you will see, when I pop that back in there, it is way too long. So I basically need to adjust that, and this is the point where you need a little bit of nerve, because what I'm going to do is simply take a hacksaw and I'm just going to cut it the right length, and I'm then going to tap it with a hammer. But because no one believes me when I tell them how simple this is, I'm actually going to film doing it so you can see. Right, I'm hoping this is going to work okay. So I've got my two shafts here. I'm lucky because I can see from the old one the length that the new one needs to be. So I am just going to get them set level and just put a little mark on the new one of where I'm going to cut it, like so. Right, so there's a little mark on there. I'm not sure if the camera will pick that up. I'm going to pop it in my vise, and the vise I've got here is a normal bench vise. It's got wooden bits in here. I've also got a bit of old leather belt in there just to stop any damage to the metal. And now hopefully you'll see me right, that's the old bit off, and now I'm just going to gently tap the end and hopefully that will be sufficient to hold inside the inner burr. So hopefully you can see the difference. There is the old one that's been knocking around for several years, and here is the one that I've just done and bashed the end of. No, it's not quite as neat as the other one, and you can see where I've bashed the end. Let's just get a bit of abrasive paper just to tidy up that end and just make it look a little bit better. But you can see it's pretty easy to do, to be honest, and hopefully when I slot that back in there you will see that that's fine. That's not going to pull off there with any ease at all. So we can now look at putting the grinder, the mill even, back together again. So we'll pop that back in there, we'll pop the retaining plate like so. If I didn't mention earlier, it's a PH1 screwdriver that you need for these screws, and indeed most, if not all, of the small screws that we supply with all our little kits. There we go, so we can see that now moving up and down, hopefully on there. On with the cap, on with the adjuster knob like so, and hopefully you can see when I adjust that it will be pulling in the burr underneath. There we go, that's ready to go again. The only other thing I do need to mention is thread sizes. A lot of people assume that the threads on these are all the same type of thread. They're not. We use a couple of manufacturers, they use different size threads. threads are enormously complicated. There is no guarantee if you buy a knob it will fit on the thread that you have. We do sell these knobs for some of our kits and different knobs for other kits. We have a solid brass one, so you can make your own knob on the top if you want to, and decorate it or put resin or something in it. And just as an example, when we did the brass tops for our longer kits, our GK8s and GK10 kits, we managed to identify the thread size. It actually took 4 samples before we actually got it right and got it to fit right. So unfortunately, with threads, even if you know the size, there's no guarantee that the knob is going to be a good fit. So if you're looking for a repair, pretty much it is trial and error. The new ones that we've got, these are actually an M5. These are nice and easy, M5 size thread, and you can see that goes on there. And you can also see you know, in terms of trimming the actual shaft itself, there's actually quite a lot of adjustment available on the knob. They don't look like very big knobs, but normally the adjustment is at least sort of 10 millimeters, whereas the burr at the bottom is probably only moving, I haven't measured it, but I'd guess probably 4 or 5 millimeters at the most, something like that. So there we go. Let's pop that one back together. It's got a nice new shaft in it, and had the other shaft gone, which eventually they will with salting, any of them. We've managed to do a little repair on that. So there we have quick repair, replacement of the shaft on that pepper mill. There is the old horrible shaft there. It would clean up okay, but so after 3, 4, I don't know how many years it is, probably 3 or 4 years, it's beginning to get a little bit eaten away by salt, as salt is absolutely horrible stuff. And just to recap on the tools I've used: a PH1 screwdriver, a hacksaw for trimming the aluminium shaft, and just a box standard claw hammer. Any hammer will do. You don't need a special hammer to do the end. They have special machines in the factory to hit the end of them, because they do them hundreds and hundreds at a time, but for one off, pretty much any old hammer can be used. So I hope that's helped anyone that's got an idea of either repairing an old mill with sentimental value or adjusting the size of a new mill that they have delivered. As I say, you need a bit of nerve, having spent, I don't know, 5 or 6 quid on a pepper mill to cut the end off, but hopefully I've shown you that it's really not very difficult just to tap the end of that and adjust it. Thanks very much for joining me again. Until next time, happy turning, happy making, milling, whatever it is you do. Until next time, bye bye for now.